welcome to a new reading vlog, welcome to the channel. And today's video is going to be a bit of a challenge for myself because I will be reading outside my comfort zone. And by that, in this case, I mean that I will be reading thrillers and mysteries. This is not at all my genre. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that that is something that doesn't usually really call to me as a reader, those types of stories. But for some reason this year I felt a curiosity that I had never felt before when it comes to that genre. So I decided to give it a chance and see how I felt about it, and if there are books that may interest me, or if it's really not the thing I should be reading and picking up. So I have 3 books for today's video that I am planning to read, and all of them, because I know this is not my style of book, I picked books that really had something that pulled me in and that I had a higher probability of enjoying, because I feel like if I really just picked straight up mysteries and classic authors within that genre, I feel like the most likely outcome would be that I would just rate everything a 2 or a 3 star, and most of them would just be okay. So there are some things in all of these books that interest me besides the mystery plot line or the thriller element of it. So let's start with If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I decided to pick this up because of the dark academia theme. So we have this school setting. This book is very highly rated. This is a group of friends that I think one of them dies, and we see them at school, their rivalries, everything that comes with this universe of dark academia. And because this book is so hyped, everybody talks about this book and how great it is, I feel like there is something more to it that I can enjoy. I feel like the character development may be something up my alley. I'm hoping that the writing is something that I enjoy as well, especially because our main characters are studying Shakespeare. Then I decided to give a chance to Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Eyemide. I know that so many people love this book. I know that so many people rave about it, and this is more of a thriller. I think from what I understand that this is more of a mystery. This one is more of a thriller. So we have this very prestigious school, high school, I believe, and our 2 main characters, Devon and Chiamaka, are the only black students that go to this school. And I think something starts happening where this person, yes, Aces, is an anonymous kind of bully to them. This is described as Gossip Girl meets Get Out. I don't know anything more about it. And finally, we have Velvet Was the Night by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Once again, the thing about this book is that the author really intrigues me, because I know she writes in such a wide variety of genres and a wide range of stories that I'm really excited to experience her writing and to see what this is all about, because I know that she has paranormal books. I know that she has more of a historical and fantasy settings. This, from the back and from what I understand, is more of a mystery and a noir. I don't really know what that means, what that entails, the noir aspect of the story. And I don't really know anything about this. I read the back, and that is as far as my understanding of this book goes. I know this book is set in Mexico in the 1970s. From what I understand, I feel like we have more of a political exploration. I feel like that is going to be an element to this story. And we have 2 different people from different worlds looking for this woman who has gone missing. As you can tell, I do not know much going into these books, but at the same time I feel like that is the right approach, because that is the fun, is it not? Really understanding the whole plot as you get into the story and being surprised. That's it. Let's get this reading vlog started. Let's talk about If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. We have this group of 7 friends. They are at their last year of college and they are Shakespeare students specifically. The whole point is that this university experience is very similar to a cult because it's an art university and people are very indoctrinated there. They feel like this is the end all be all institution, that this is the best place to study, and whenever you're there, you've made it. And so there's a lot of that feeling going around, like we're the best in the world and this is the best place we could ever be. And so they are very full of themselves, as is typical in this setting, in these types of books. We have 7 very pretentious characters. After a party, one of them shows up dead. And we see from the beginning of the book, right from the very first chapter, that one of them was convicted of this crime, is currently in prison, about to come out. But we are not exactly sure what happened because the detective responsible for this investigation arrested him, but he was never truly convinced that he was the guilty one, or the only guilty one perhaps. And so we are, now that this person, our main character Oliver, is getting out of prison, he decides, through a series of conversations, he decides to tell his side of the story and tell the events how he remembers them and how he thinks they happened. So that is the book. We are seeing through his perspective present day, while also getting flashbacks to things that happened during this time in his life. I think it was 10 years ago. Also, do you see my bookmark? Very fitting, I would say, for this type of story. I have a little bit less than a third of the way to go, so let's explain what I'm thinking so far. In terms of the writing style, I have to say that I'm a bit iffy because I think perhaps I'm reading this physically, but I'm also at times listening to the audiobook, and in the present day we don't see it as much. It's more of a fluid writing style. Those parts I am enjoying much more, but there are certain parts in this book where there are like the characters are talking, instead of having just the typical like parts in the text that said like person A said this, or oh you came, said person B, stuff like that. You have almost like parts in a play. So you have the character name, if you focus, you have the character name and then their lines or what they are saying, and it feels a little clunky to me. It feels like it was dropped out of nowhere, and it doesn't make sense to me why at certain points, maybe this will be explained by the end and there's a reason, but at this point in time I feel like this is very random because we don't have this stylistic choice throughout the whole book. We have it at specific times, so I don't know if this is an indication of a lie and this being a fabrication in the way our main character Oliver is telling the story, or if this was just the author making a choice for some reason, and if that is the case, I'm not really vibing with it. So I'm curious to see if perhaps like my initial theory is the case, and whenever we see that it's a lie, because whenever we see them acting, and we do see parts of them like in plays, that happens and we see the lines. So is that perhaps a hint that those are fabrications and those are not actually true? recollections and he is making things up. If that is the case, I will enjoy it more. If not, I don't really see the point. We are really betting on people attaching themselves to these characters without knowing them that well. And especially because we only see through one POV, we only see from our main character Oliver and what people tell him, what he perceives of certain situations. We don't really know the other characters fully. We don't really understand certain things that happen. Sometimes he doesn't even see things, so we don't see things. And I feel like in these types of books, it's such a valuable addition to the story, seeing the multiple POVs and seeing how each person has a different interpretation or a different intent in how they are acting. And it would be so much more interesting and so much more complex if we were given the chance to see deeper. Because of that, I feel a little bit of a disconnect. Oliver as a main character is not that interesting and he is not that compelling. He feels like one of those people who are always ready to play the martyr, but only because they don't open their eyes and see what is going on around them. He feels very self-centered. The way that he interprets things is that he is making a sacrifice. He is willing to go there and to defend this person and to risk it all for this other person. And at the same time, it's like, you need to sit him down. I would sit him down and say like, this is not about you. Also, this book is written by a woman. Like, ML Rio is a woman. I find that funny because I don't feel like the female characters are given a lot of complexity. I feel like we're missing something, and once again, that may be just my interpretation. There is more going on in this story in the female department, and we don't get to see it, and Oliver is very clueless. In terms of setting and in terms of vibes, this book is bringing it so much. I would love to see an adaptation of this book, and I'm actually surprised that there hasn't been one yet. So I finished this book and I'm ready to talk about it. I don't think my opinions on this changed very much. I thought the whodunit of it all was predictable because the signs were there, the clues were there. It was not one of those endings that came out of left field, so I enjoyed that aspect of it. I was not right about my predictions when it comes to the dialogue and the way that it is written. Nothing came of it. Without spoiling anything, of course, I have to say that the ending of this felt very Hallmark movie. I can understand it, and especially if you love this book, I can understand how you will enjoy the ending. It felt a tiny little bit like, did we really need this? I feel like for me to really fall in love with this book and with this story, I really needed that multiple POV situation. I felt like the story revolved around the whole group so much that it didn't make sense for us to only see through one person's perspective. I did enjoy one specific line that I felt really ended the story well. Now I understand why people tab the books, because I never tab my books. I just highlight the sentences that I enjoy. And now I understand, because finding the specific sentence is a little challenging. Found it. So the sentence I was talking is, I have nothing of my own now, not even secrets. This sentence really encapsulates the vibe of this book. One last thing is that I haven't read Shakespeare in my life. I've only read Romeo and Juliet. If you know Shakespeare a lot, especially because we see so much of the plays and everything, I feel like you will get so much more out of this story, because some things went over my head in that department. But still, I had a very good time reading this. Also, I just saw this book is being adapted into a TV show. What a great coincidence. I love it when that happens, when a book that I am already interested in and I'm already reading is announced to be adapted. It's so great. Oh my god. And especially this one, I feel like it has so much potential. So I am really excited to wait patiently and to watch that adaptation. Then, since I have you here, the next book I picked up for this vlog was Ace of Spades, because I took advantage of the fact that I was still in the mood for that school setting, and I had Ace of Spades in my TBR shelf. I've had it for I think a year now, so what perfect timing. I am 60% of the way into this book. I actively stopped myself from reading further on because I wanted to do an update before I finished it. If you don't know what this story is about, first off, let me explain. So this is a high school setting. We have, what's it called? Nivea's Private Academy. We have this very prestigious high school, and we have our two main characters, Devon and Shimaka, and they are the only black students at the school. Up until this point, this is their senior year. Up until this point, it has been a normal school experience. Senior year rolls around, and what do you know? Aces does as well. And what is Aces? If you know Gossip Girl, Aces is that, but worse. So in Gossip Girl, you have people like getting text messages and all of these rumors going around. Here, Aces is kind of like that, but worse, because it's full on bullying, intimidation, and specifically of these two black students. So when we start off, they don't really run in the same circles, but because they are both being targeted by Aces, they need in a way to join forces and to kind of take them down. When I picked up this book, I knew that this is one of those very highly reviewed books that everybody that has read it, or most of the people who I follow who have read it, have loved it. And I was really excited to see what I thought of it. So going into this, like the first couple chapters, we immediately are going. And at first, I was a little taken aback because we've established this. I do enjoy plot, but I'm a character person. And so I was a little bit scared that I wouldn't get that development of the characters, that I wouldn't really feel attached to them because we would focus so much on the plot. But that was not the case at all. As this story develops, they really let you in a way. You see little by little their lives, what they want out of life, how they want to achieve that. I really feel like I understand them, and I feel for them. I feel scared for what they're going through, absolutely terrified. I feel such rage for what they're going through. It's one of those situations where you want to get into the book and just knock some heads around. And where I stopped is when shit is hitting the fan. We are really seeing the monster's head and starting to put the pieces of this puzzle together, and it is terrifying. I think this is a great example of why I don't read that many thrillers to begin with, or any thrillers to begin with, because I get so stressed for these characters, and I really want to get to the end. I really want to get to the resolution to see like who's responsible for what and what are the consequences and what do we do after this, that I fly through them. It's a very stressful experience. I just needed to do this update so that I can finally fly through the rest of this book. If you've never read any thriller, I feel like this is a great place to start. I finished Ace of Spades Oh my god, this book I think this book made my blood pressure go up. Definitely. I was listening to the audiobook. I was also following along with the physical copy. When I tell you that I couldn't read this fast enough, I couldn't get to the end of this fast enough, I am not lying, because honestly, I just wanted to see the resolution for all of this because it was so nerve-wracking. I will absolutely not spoil anything, especially because this is a thriller, so the fun of reading this is to see how everything concludes. This is why I don't read these books, because they affect me so much. Objectively speaking, I think this book is incredible. So much to unpack. Here, the discussion of racism, of class, of privilege, and all of that. What people are willing to do to keep their privilege, how far they're willing to go, how entitled people are. I am ready to put this down. I definitely understand the hype with this. Definitely an incredible thriller. I started and I finished Velvet Was the Night, so let's talk about it because I have some thoughts, and the first one is that I was always waiting for something big to happen in this story to give you an update, but in a sense nothing ever did. So let's talk about this. In the beginning of this video, I think I mentioned a brief synopsis. So we have this woman, Leonora, who is missing, and our two main characters, Maite and Elvis, are looking for her for different reasons. And it starts a little bit like that, but at the same time, this is such a slow-moving story, such a slow-moving mystery that almost doesn't feel like it's really a mystery. Sure, you are trying to put the pieces together, but the author takes such care in describing our main characters' lives and thought process outside of the mystery that the mystery plotline almost feels like a background noise. It's something that is guiding them and their actions, but inside their minds there's so much more going on, especially because this is very political, very much historical fiction. At the back of the book we even have an afterword where the author explains the origin of this story and the inspiration she took in real life events, how people in Mexico in the 1970s were really being persecuted for their ideals, for their political alignments. And this book focuses much more on that. So this was not what I was expecting. So when I say that I was waiting for something big to happen, it never did. This is a steady mystery. You go with the characters. This feels very realistic in that sense because you go with the characters and none of them are particularly resourceful. None of them are particularly intelligent. They don't have any special ability to them to find this woman faster and to uncover all of the webs that connect these people and this plot. So this feels very realistic because you see them in their everyday life. It's a bit mundane, but at the same time, you understand everything that is going on. One thing I have to say is that I really enjoyed the writing. This story is not for me. This one in particular, I felt like I was really uneducated about, so I would have to search up a lot of things to kind of understand the political situation at the time. But if you enjoy that, check this book out because, like I mentioned, this feels very well researched, very realistic, and it has a lot of commentary to add. So I can see a lot of people loving this book. It was just not for me. I'm not that type of reader, and that's okay. But one thing that I did take away from this is the writing, because even though I didn't love these characters, I didn't particularly care for this plot, I still really enjoyed the writing. So I'm really excited to pick up The Beautiful Ones because I do already own that book and I feel like that has a much higher probability of me enjoying it. So this was very average in terms of my reading experience, but in terms of quality of writing, this was very, very good. And like I mentioned before, if you enjoy these types of stories, political, historical setting, a lot of commentary apart from the mystery plot line, I feel like you will love this book. And with that, let's wrap up this video. I would say this was a very successful experience because I did read outside my comfort zone, but I feel like I gained from this experiment and from reading all of these books. Do I feel compelled to explore this genre more? I don't believe I do, simply because the elements and the themes that are explored in these stories are not what moves me as a reader, and it's very difficult for me especially to connect with these characters because they feel so fleeting. It seems like the plot is the guiding force in these types of stories, and I need something more. And at the same time, even though there were instances where the characters, I mean in all of these, the characters were really important, it always felt like after the plot was resolved, I couldn't really get more from them. And also the fact that it really raises my blood pressure and my heart rate. It's a very tense reading experience, and I don't love it. I don't love picking up a book knowing that I will be anxious. I don't need more anxiety in my life. Thank you very much. But if you do, if you enjoy putting pieces together, solving mysteries, and being a little bit of a detective yourself, I feel like these are great choices. So wrapping things up, I would say Ace of Spades was my favorite in terms of characters. I really enjoyed getting to know these characters, and I felt like with them I could really see them in the future and seeing them fully developed. This was my favorite in terms of setting. The setting of If We Were Villains was everything. So atmospheric, so autumn. It was everything I wanted and more. So I loved the setting of this. But I would say the writing, this was my favorite. I really enjoyed the writing of this. So all in all, very successful. If you've read any of these, let me know in the comments down below your thoughts. Let's talk about them. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!